as we go through life, we're exposed to all this different information, right? The right ways to do things, and especially this day and age, the age of information, we're abundant of information, and you can go out there and find the answers to whatever you want to find the answers for. And that's great, right? We live in a time where we've got plenty available to us, plenty of wisdom, plenty of theories, plenty of ways of living. And it's great. We learn a lot. And in many ways, it's like a fast track, right? You can, whatever particular field you pick, you can go online, or you can meet people and share stories and research and find what you want to find. And as I said, this is great. We're very lucky to be living in a time where you can digest information so freely. And as I said, this is like a fast track. But it's important to remember, and I think we all know this deep down, right, that is there really a right and wrong? Because it all depends on where you're coming from and what you want, right? And you can go on and it depends who you listen to. This is what I've noticed. Maybe I'll learn something, I'll pick up something, and I'll try it. And sometimes it works for me and I keep that with me. And other times it don't, and over time it sort of falls away. It's not something that I connect with. And this is the way life is, right? We pick things up along the way. We try it out even without knowing sometimes, but we pick things up subconsciously, and we hear things subconsciously, or we consciously research and try and find the answer to something and see how it fits for us, see if it works for us. But what's interesting and quite funny, and also can be frustrating if you let it frustrate you, but it just sort of highlights this point I'm trying to make, in that you can take something on, pick something up, learn something, and as I said, it might work for you. And you can live by that for a certain period of time, until sooner or later you'll hear someone else providing a valid point or some deep research on why the opposite of what you're doing is actually the right way to be, the right way to live, the right way to do something. And whatever field you go into, this happens. There'll be someone out there saying, decide that this is the way to be, and then you can also find someone that says the complete opposite is the way to be. And this is where it comes down to not getting frustrated, taking both, and seeing what works for you, seeing what sits well with you. It might be your intuition, it might be something that you actually try out and test for yourself and see what works. And it might be that this changes through time to time. It might be that you're in a period of your life where one of those approaches work, one of those pieces of knowledge really works for you, and that runs its course. Or it might be something that you keep with you forever. But it definitely is true that it depends who you listen to with anything. Who are you listening to? At the end of the day, we've all picked things up, we all learn from each other, and it's rare that a piece of information or an idea or something is actually original. It's quite rare. And or like a groundbreaking discovery or something like that is quite rare. But even those ones, if you take the most recent groundbreaking discoveries, there's going to be plenty of people that completely disagree, and that's opinion, right? That's what it's all about in many ways. We're not meant to all agree. This is another thing. We expect each other to agree on certain things. It's not the way it is, I want to celebrate that we've got these different perspectives and different opinions, rather than expecting us all to agree on the same thing. And in certain areas of our life, to expect us all to see the thing the same, or to see something the same way, is unrealistic, right? We've all got different bodies, we're all on different paths, here to learn different lessons, and coming from completely different places, completely different angles. So it makes sense that we're going to see things differently. It's going to come down to our characters, the lives we've lived, maybe our ancestors, and where we're from in the world, what's acceptable, what's not, what makes sense, what doesn't. But this is just something to keep in mind, take things on, take information on, and learn as much as you can. But ultimately you are just taking it as a little bit of insight for you then to listen to yourself. And that's what all this comes down to. How does it feel for you? Does it work for you? Because we can trick ourselves into thinking that, no, that's the right way to be, but it might take years for it to show itself that it hasn't been doing us good all along. And then we learn and we adapt and can hold our hands up and say, I got that wrong. For me at least, I was wrong. That didn't suit me, that particular thing, that particular diet, that particular approach to life, that particular way of being. You've got someone out there striving to be a leader, and the world needs more leaders. And there'll be someone else, another wise man, that sits in and says, we don't need leaders, we all come together. It really is whatever field you go down. And this is beautiful, as I said. We need to celebrate this, that we all see life differently, and to expect ourselves to all operate the same, although we are all so similar. there's these nuances to us all that change things about us, that make us different. And that's a beautiful thing. That's worth celebrating. And it becomes clear when we're digesting information and trying to learn, trying to better ourselves, trying to find the ways that we should live or that we should be. But at the end of the day, you have just got to listen to yourself. Try things, experiment. Have that in you to try and better yourself and explore. But ultimately get to the understanding, I think, that we don't actually know. None of us actually know the answers. And we might know some things that sit well for us and that work for us, but it doesn't mean that they're going to work for others. And it doesn't mean we should expect them to work for others. And stand so firmly in our belief that no, this is the way. A lot can open up when you recognise that I don't actually know. This is how I'm currently living. This is how I would approach this situation. This is how I would do that. That's fine. But with the understanding that, do we really know? Have we really got the answers? The things I've picked up along the way and I feel I've learned about myself and the ways that I tick and the way that I like to operate work for me at this time. And I might look back even on these videos in years to come and just think, oh, what was I thinking? You know, so much has changed. I learned so much, but that's natural. That's the journey of life that we're all on. And again, that can be celebrated. This is not to say don't go out and look for information or look to better yourself and strive to learn new things that we haven't been exposed to yet. Because along the way, you're going to pick up some gold and some things that you're probably going to take on and use for the rest of your life. As I said, other things might just run their course and you use them for a chapter, but that's fine too. So keep researching, keep learning, keep listening, keep striving to gain wisdom and learn from others that have been before us and know about a certain field. And we're blessed to be able to share information so freely these days, or have access to so much information. But remember that none of us really know. We're all just trying to figure it out, right? And there'll be science that supports one thing, and then there'll be others out there who've got a theory that completely turns that on its head. And then when we recognise that anything we've been told is just something we've been told, how much have we actually lived to actually know that from our own perspective, to know that as fact? We've got these things that make sense to us and might sit well, but we don't actually know. The things we've picked up. So until you do know, until you've sat with that and you've experienced it and you've got to the point where you can recognise that really works for me. I'm grateful. I know this is a part of me. This is a part of my living and how I see the world, and it works for me. Until you get to that point, by trying it yourself and listening to your own body, how it affects you, because it might work for someone else but not you, and that's completely normal. That makes sense, right? So even these videos, the stuff that I share, stuff that I've picked up along the years, stuff I've learned about myself and the ways that my mind stays in a nice, healthy place, and the things that get me going, and the things I've learned through going and exploring different avenues. I've only experienced so much, right, in certain fields, and through doing that consistently, I've picked up things that are worth sharing. But even these videos, they might help some, they might connect with some, and for others they won't, and for others it won't stand true, and that's fine, because that person that doesn't connect will try it themselves or listen to themselves, and they might either be in a chapter of their life where they can't see it or feel it or experiment with it, or they might know quite clearly that's not for them, and that's good. That's what we need to be doing, because it just depends who you listen to. It depends who your teacher is, and until we go off and actually implement it ourselves and have our own experiences, we don't know. And do we ever know? I don't know. And it's a good place to be, I think, with mindset of actually accepting that I don't know. I'm not going to tell you this is the way it is, or tell my friends this is the way this is the way it is. We can only talk from our experiences and what have worked for us, and it doesn't mean it's going to work for the next person. I love that we've got so much information available and we can go off and listen to so many experts in their field. And through that, I'm going to learn things and have shortcuts on topics and on theories and everything else that would have took me a long time to figure out, or something that maybe I would never have got around to diving into. Yeah, I get that shortcut and I'm grateful for that. But to recognise that we don't really know, and until you go off and try it yourself and see things from your own perspective and how it lands for your own body, for your own mind, for your own life, don't take it as fact. Or don't take it as, take it as a pinch of salt. And it's quite comical that for every expert there's another one contradicting them. For everything you hear that's good, is there someone else saying that it's bad? And as I said, this is not a problem, you know, different opinions, different things make sense to us, and that's absolutely fine. But it is good to remember, in an age of so much information, listen to yourself, learn and implement, try it out, see how it feels, and you'll get your own answers for how it works for you. And those answers might not apply to your neighbour. And some of them will. Some of them will have a lot of substance. And all of it in many ways is worth sharing, the stuff that you've experienced and feel like has benefited you, and it might benefit the person that hears it. It might really connect with the person that hears it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's why sharing stories, sharing experiences and gaining wisdom is a positive thing. And we can be grateful for it. And take that on. If it connects with you, try it and see how you go. But recognise it does depend who you listen to in life. And all of us are looking for answers and looking for ways to live and to better ourselves and to grow and to be more at peace, be more fulfilled, be more happy. So there's some fundamentals there that apply and will work for most. But everyone's coming from a different place in different chapters in their life and here to learn different things, so it seems. So to expect ourselves to all come from exactly the same place all the time, I think is quite unrealistic and probably not normal. It's beautiful with all these different opinions, and it's beautiful that not everything's going to work for everyone. Some things are going to work for some. Some things are going to stand true for some. So as long as you're questioning yourself and reflecting with yourself with what stands true to you and seems to work, seems to take you forward in a positive way, rather than just taking everything that you hear as truth without that questioning, without that reflection, without actually tuning into your own body, your own mind, your own life, and deciding for yourself, is this something that seems to have some substance? And give it time, give it time, because we never really know. Some things is a cycle, and it takes time for the truth for us to reveal itself. Don't make hasty decisions, experiment and see how it lands. And don't get mad at the person that told you, because it's most likely that they were just trying to do their best and share their wisdom and knowledge on things that have worked for them. And it does just come down to who you listen to in life, who you choose to listen to. But stay true to you. Listen to yourself more than anyone. What feels right for you, what stands true, rather than getting sucked into other people's opinions and ways of being. Take their wisdom, take their knowledge, take their message, and see how it sits for you. And I think that's the only way we can really decipher what's going to be right for us personally, because it might not be what's right for our neighbour. Stay true, keep learning, but keep reflecting, and understand that maybe we'll never really have the full answers, only what works for us at certain periods of our life, or for our certain type. Opinions are a good thing, and it makes sense that we're not all going to see this life differently, and it makes sense that we're all going to operate differently. It makes sense that we're not all going to eat the same food and go off and see what a healthy lifestyle is all the same way. Some things will be okay for some, might not be that damaging. Other things are going to be really damaging. And then on a more light-hearted level, just a mindset and approach to life, an outlook, a certain opinion on a certain topic. Rather than getting angry and getting annoyed that the person opposite you isn't seeing it the same way or has a completely contrasting view, just recognise it's their angle. We haven't lived their life, we haven't lived their story to understand exactly how or why they're seeing it the way they are, but they are that, and that's what makes us all different, and that's a good thing. It'd be a boring world if we was all exactly the same, here learning all of the same lessons, other than just learning to know ourselves more deeply, and we're all so different in that way. Such different characters, different wounds, different lessons. So similar in many ways. In most ways, we're so similar. Yeah, as I said, there's these nuances that make us different, and that can be celebrated. It makes life exciting. It makes the unknown unknown. And it means that we can learn so much from each other. because we don't all know what each other know. And we can explore those things that we are yet to know and yet to find out, and see how they work for us. Because I said, a lot of it will stand true, a lot of it will work for you. It doesn't mean everything's rubbish, it's not at all, man. There's wisdom out there, there's knowledge out there that we can be learning from. But do we ever really, really know until we try it out for ourselves and see how it sits for ourselves? It might work for a certain chapter of our lives and not another. And that's all good, that's all part of the journey. Stay true, keep learning, keep reflecting, and be humble enough to know we don't actually know. And that's what this journey is about, figuring out ourselves and what works for us, and what we like and what we don't like. And that's going to be different for all of us.